You're listening to Cosmic Compass, episode 17. Hello and welcome back to Cosmic Compass, your leading astrocartography and relocation astrology podcast. And I am so excited to be talking about today's episode with you because I have received so many DMs on Instagram about this very topic. How to stay grounded when the astrology is wild, how to stay anchored, how to stay grounded when you're going through rough transits, and also how to stop obsessing over astrology. If you're new to astrology, and for me, being a new astrologer is within the first 3 years of studying astrology. If you are new to this work, if you've just been starting to begin this journey of learning about the planets and learning about birth charts and transits and all of this, you might find that you become really obsessed with tracking your life and timing your life and making predictions, whether it's for you or your loved ones or the world. I know because this has happened to me. I've gone through my own cycles of becoming obsessed with learning everything that I could about astrology. And this is okay. And this is a good thing. And we shouldn't shame or guilt ourselves for feeling obsessed with something and wanting to know every little thing that we can learn about in this field. Because it's true that you could spend a whole life learning and studying astrology and you'll still not know everything. Some of my favorite astrologers that have been doing this for 30, 40 years, they still talk about how they learned about this new technique or they're studying this new technique and this new timing technique with something that they're using. You know, you'll never stop learning. And so I first want to just give you that permission to allow yourself to be obsessed with something that you love, because often what we're so passionate about and that we are obsessed with, often those are clues pointing us to what we love and what our passions are and how we can help other people with those passions. And so I just want to give you permission to feel all the things you want to feel and to feel obsessed if you want to feel obsessed. However, I do want to say there comes a point in life when you just need a break. Whether it's a break from astrology or it's a break from tracking your life's timing using transits or taking a break from obsessing about the future. Before we get into today's deep dive podcast episode, I just want to thank you for being here. Thanks for tuning in. Whether you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple iTunes as a podcast, going about your day, or you're watching this on visual form on YouTube, I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in, and I love hearing from you. So thank you so much for sending all your DMs, your emails, letting me know what you think about the podcast episodes. It really inspires and encourages me to keep sharing and to keep showing up for you guys. I also do want to mention that in this episode, I'm going to be talking a lot about grounding techniques and how to live slowly and how to stay anchored to yourself when the astrology is hard. And I do want to let you know that I do have a book. My first published book came out in 2023, Slow Living, The Secrets to Slowing Down and Noticing the Simple Joys Anywhere. You can get it online on Amazon at helenawoods.com/book, or you can simply call up your local public library and ask the library to house this book, to get this book, to order it, and you can read it for free that way as well. Eventually, that URL will be changed to helenawoods.com/slowlivingbook because I have many, many books that I plan to get published in this life. Ever since I was a little girl, when I was writing in journals and I stayed in my classroom in the first grade when I was supposed to go outside to play with the kids on the playground at recess, I would stay in the classroom and write stories. This was in the first grade, and I've always known since then that someday I was going to be a writer, someday I was going to be an author, someday I was going to devote my life to writing. And while I've written hundreds of blog posts on my blog over the many years and hundreds of Instagram captions, long Instagram captions, and even this first book, I still feel like this story hasn't even fully gotten going yet? Long tangent, but I just wanted to say, if you ever wanted to get all of my tips, all of the advice that I wish I had years ago, I literally put all of my best tips, advice, lessons learned, wisdom gained over the many years being on a slow living, intuitive journey. I wrote them all down in this book. So when I sat down to write this book, Slow Living, I wrote it with the intention of, I just want to have a one-stop shop type of a place where literally anything that I wish I knew in terms of lifestyle and living and intuition and all of that, I wish I could put it all in one place that someone could physically open and read and look at. That's what this book was for. I wrote this book with that intention in mind of being able to pick it off a coffee table or a bookshelf and just open it to a random page and get some knowledge from that on the page. So if you did want to read my book, check out Slow Living. You can find it everywhere online, or ask your local library to house it. And then lastly, I do have free meditations that you can get on my website. I will include those links down below in the description, some slow living meditations to help you ground and anchor yourself, connect with your inner voice, as well as a trust your timeline meditation to help you trust in your timing and surrender to your life's story. All right, with all of that sharing out of the way, I wanted to give you these practical tips on what you can do when the astrology is hard. How can you move through it? The first, most biggest obvious point here is this too shall pass. This too shall pass. This phrase is something that always gives me peace and helps me remember the bigger picture. The best transits in your life will pass you, and the worst transits in your life will pass you. This too shall pass. That's the wonderful thing about time. That's the wonderful thing about astrology, is not everything is permanent. In fact, everything is in flux. Everything is impermanent, and we all know this. But when we're in the hard times, when we're going through hard transits, it feels like it's never going to end, and it feels like it's never going to be over. I have so many clients who have gone through illness, or they've been bedridden, or they've had really hard traumatic things happen to them. And when they come to me years prior, they feel like it's never going to be over. And then I see them the year later or 2 years later come back to me, my clients, and they tell me how they got through that and how, how it passed and how it's over now, or it's lessened. And I just want that to be a reminder for you. First of all, the most important thing is that this too shall pass. And I think that's just an important reminder, a quote to just keep in the back of your mind when you're going through hard times. I can't remember who said that quote. I definitely did not say that quote. This too shall pass. It comes from somewhere. Very important to remember that, because it's really easy to get lost in the muck of it all when we're in the middle of hard times. But if we can just remember the bigger picture of this will eventually expire, this will eventually end, and we will move on and move forward, it's just really helpful and to remember that. Aside from that more theoretical idea of this too shall pass, let's get into the practical. I think one of the most practical things that we can do as astrologers, as astrology enthusiasts, as people who are learning astrology and we're just finding it and we're obsessed with it, I really want to encourage you to have hobbies. I want to encourage you to have pursuits and interests that are not astrology related. I think a lot of people, when they first stumble upon my work or my passions online, they see this intense zeal for what I do, because it's true. I'm extremely passionate about whatever it is that I'm talking about. I don't make content unless I'm inspired or passionate about something. I can't make content or show up if I'm not excited about something personally. That's just, everything leads from my heart. Everything has to come from the heart first. I don't think a lot of people realize that I have such a rich, varied life, a life of variety. I'm not only reading astrology. I'm not just learning about astrology or talking about astrology. I'm not just watching astrology videos on YouTube. I watch a lot of content on a lot of different subjects. A lot of the books that I read on a daily basis are not astrology related. Memoirs, I love memoirs. History books, I'm reading a book about the history of Paris right now. I just finished reading a memoir about Lee Miller, the photographer from World War II, right? Like, I have such a balanced life. A lot of my friends are not into astrology. My husband's not into astrology. Essentially, I'm not in a bubble. I am not in a bubble of astrology everything. And I think that's something that might surprise a lot of people, but also I think this is what keeps me grounded and keeps me so centered and healthy as an all-around person, a healthy human. And I really hope that that inspires you to do the same. Because I think if all we do is astrology, all we look at is astrology, making predictions with astrology, reading astrology books, it really keeps us out of the big picture of life, which is just your daily life, taking care of yourself, breathing, eating, sleeping, walking, like the normal things of life. I know that this resonates for a lot of people because I've had so many comments and DMs and emails from people who say things like this, like, I'm so obsessed with the astrology and making predictions and learning about things that I'm forgetting about the other things. Like, I'm becoming so obsessed. I get these kinds of messages all the time on Instagram, and it inspired me to show up today because I got another message today. Today I got a message DM from a woman saying, I decided today to go on a sabbatical from learning astrology. I realized that I made learning astrology an obsession that was coming from a yearning for control and peace in my life. But astrology won't make everything better. I think when we're going through hard times, a lot of us turn to astrology to better make sense of our world. And let me say, astrology is so helpful for understanding the context of what's happening and when is this going to be over, right? Like, it really helps our logical brains make sense of what's going on. However, there comes a point where if you are ever obsessing about anything, astrology or not astrology, anything, you will lose yourself. And that's not the goal here. The goal is to have fun and to enjoy every day that you have on this planet, and remembering the big picture, the bigger picture of you breathing and existing and just being alive. And whenever we get obsessed with something too much, it's at the detriment of our livelihoods, at our lives, our self-care. And so I want to encourage you to have a life, a rich life outside of astrology that has nothing to do with astrology. And this is why I've always had a lot of friends in my life who are not into astrology, even astrology skeptics, because I never want to live in a bubble. Everything centers around one topic. That's just not who I am. That's not the life I want to live and lead. I want to live a life of variety. And so for that reason, I have always prioritized my life over everything else. Money, career, status, achievement, astrology, knowledge, all of this. My life and the well-being and health of my life is number one, most important, and my marriage. That personal life guides everything else. And I always take care of the personal life first. Everything else expands, soars, and gets better because I take care of myself first. And when I am good, when I am healthy, when my cup is full, I have this overflow of needing to give back, a desire that stems from overflow, excess. I need to give more because I am so good. So again, going back to the idea of do not make one thing your life. Do not make one thing your obsession. Read different books, watch movies, watch documentaries about other people's lives, start watching other YouTube channels about different topics. I don't watch a lot of astrology content. I watch a lot of vloggers. I watch a lot of habit building people. I like that stuff. I like history documentaries. I like watching YouTube videos about history. And I also want to give that nuanced perspective, though, to those of you who are in the beginning of finding something and becoming obsessed with it. Don't feel guilty over becoming obsessed with something, because I've done that too, especially with astrocartography. All I could do was eat, sleep, breathe astrocartography. I'm not at that point now. I'm not eating, breathing, sleeping astrocartography now, because I am now in a place where I have learned and ingrained so much over years worth of knowledge that now I am just here to share and here to give examples. But for those of you who are new to this, you might feel like you want to eat, breathe, and sleep this, and that's okay, and don't feel guilty about it. But I do also want to give you that challenge of make sure that you also have other things that you can do to counterbalance that obsession. Get into your senses. This is something I talk a lot about in my book, Slow Living, but it is really important to come back to the sensory experience of life, the 5 senses. Smelling things, touching things, tasting things, right? Getting back into your physical body and stop living in the mind. Your inner voice, your intuition, you're gonna connect with that, whether that's God, your higher spirit, your intuition, whatever you want to call this feeling of peaceful knowing presence, this feeling of love, this overwhelming feeling of love and warmth and connection, that energy that is so loving and so present and always here, it lives in the body. It lives in the wind, in the leaves. It lives in the clouds. It lives in the sky. It lives in the sunset. It lives in the physical. It's not a thinking mental connection. The best way to connect with your inner voice and to connect with that physical presence, the body, the sensory experience of this life, is to exhale. When you find that you are holding your breath and holding it, you're thinking. And we want to release that obsession with thought and the mind and mental focus, because the intuition lives in the body and it lives through presence, meditation, mindfulness, and we connect through that by breathing, by doing breath work, by exhaling. And so if you ever are in need of grounding yourself, I want to remind you to 1, exhale, focus on breath work, do some breath work every day if you can, and also get into your physical body, whether that's in movement and dancing or swaying to your favorite song or washing your hands with warm soapy water and your favorite soap. I am such a sensory person. Literally, smell is my strongest scent, and my sense of smell is just insane. And I am such a smell person that I'm always lighting candles. I always have perfume. I always am getting my favorite soaps from around the world. I'm literally shipping my favorite soaps from around the world from different places that I've traveled to and getting those scents into my home, because it grounds me so much when I connect with certain smells. And so whatever your strongest scent is, connect with that in a deeper way. So for me, it's like anytime I wash my hands, I take a good mindful minute to really be present with washing my hands and smelling the soap and like totally basking in it. I know it's kind of weird. Even when I'm in a bubble bath, and I take bubble baths every day. I have since I was a little girl. I am obsessed with bubble baths. I love baths. I love pools, swimming in big bodies of water, but I love natural sea sponges and connecting with scent in that way. Like, connect with the body again and ground yourself in your body and anchor yourself in your body, whether it's in yoga or dancing or swaying to music or just doing breath work and smelling beautiful smells, right? The astrology, spiritual, thought-oriented world, it lives so much in the mind. And I want to challenge you to get out of your mind and get into your physical body and connect with your senses in a slower, more mindful way. And this can be so simple. And I talk about all of the ways that you can do this in my book, Slow Living. So if you ever wanted to get a full breakdown on all the ways that you can live slowly and connect with that sensory experience of life, check out my book. Put the attention off of you and onto others. This is something I learned through doing consultation work in my astrology business. I noticed that before I started doing astrology work, I was really feeling so lonely and isolated. I was making YouTube videos, hundreds of thousands of views, so much compliments. I had my book published. Like, I felt like I was achieving a lot that I had wanted in my life. But I did feel empty towards the end of that journey because I felt like I wasn't connecting with people enough. There's a huge difference between reading comments and DMs versus seeing someone one-on-one in a Zoom call. There's a huge difference. And for me, I noticed that I felt more grounded in my life and just all around more fulfilled and living a life of purpose and meaning when I started connecting with people one-on-one through Zoom, doing client consultations. When I started meeting people up in real life, like meeting new friends off the internet and meeting them up when I was traveling. These small ways of allowing myself to feel supported by community and to connect with community in a deeper way. And there's so many ways you can do this, whether it's inviting your friend over to your house and having a girls' night and sitting on the couch with a glass of wine and just talking about everything and fully giving your friend that evening to vent, to share, and to hold space for that person. There is something really remarkable about hearing another person's story and listening to their story, listening to their problems, their triumphs, and taking it in and really studying and like observing people. This part of what I do is one of my favorite things of my job is listening to other people's story, seeing other people and connecting with them. And that's why I've told so many people, so many out there know this, but I will never not do consultations. I will never, as an astrologer, stop doing one-on-one readings. I will always do private consultations because that part of my work fulfills me the most of everything that I do, because I am connecting with people and seeing them and seeing their eyes and hearing them speak and hearing them and listening to their stories. There is something about that human connection that is so, I feel, missing in this digital world. And I do think it's going to get worse with Pluto and Aquarius. And so I want to challenge you to find ways where you can connect with people in a deeper way, whether it's having your neighbors come over or whether it's inviting that person that you see all the time in town and asking her to go get coffee with you one day, asking your friend if she needs any help with anything and asking to walk her dog, even just a pet. Like having a connection with a pet where you walk them every day and you take care of the pet every day. The idea of getting the problem off of you and stop wallowing in your self-pity and your problems, even though they may be very, very valid for you to feel all of that and to go through that. And I'm a big believer in fully feeling your feelings and wallowing as much as you need to until there comes a point where you need to get up and stop wallowing and move on with your life and focus on other people. There is something really powerful about taking the attention off of you and your problems and your life and your story and putting it on someone else. This is so healing, not only for them and for your community and your connections with others and your relationships, but also for yourself. We as humans, we must never forget that we are social creatures, and that is such an inherent part of our DNA, and we do crave that on a biological level, I believe. We crave social interaction and community. And so remember that when times are tough, when you feel like you're spiraling, when you're going through a lot, remember to hold space for other people too, and temporarily taking the pressure and the obsession and the analysis on your life and yourself, and instead putting it on someone else temporarily for a period of time is really helpful and really refreshing. So that's my next tip. Tip number 4. A lot I could say on journaling. Journaling could be a whole 5-part series. I could make a whole course on journaling, which I already have the outline for a course on journaling. It's just not the time right now, as the Anywhere Office course is top priority, and that will be coming out very soon. So stay tuned if you want to find out about that next live course all about travel hacking, astrology, birth charts, astrocartography, making money from anywhere, how to make money as you sleep, how to set it all up as a business if that's something you desired. That will be coming out very soon, but I will include some freebies down in the show notes, whether it's my free journaling prompts, my free meditations, my slow intuitive living bundle, my free YouTube videos that have all my tips for journaling. I'll include all of that down below because I want to give you a lot of resources and support to help you get into journaling, because I know if you are not a journaler or you're not a writer, it can feel like a daunting task and a habit that's hard to stick with. But I want to give you those resources in hopes that it will support you. If you're new to journaling, I do find that journal prompts are especially helpful for just getting started. And so those journal prompts, I'll include that link down below, and you can get that via email so that can really support you on your journey with this. Those are my top 5 tips for staying grounded and staying anchored when you're going through hard transits, but also when you're so knee deep into astrology that it can feel overwhelming and obsessive. And I want to encourage you to go back to your body, the sensory experience of life, self-care, slow living, intuitive living, and also having a balanced mindset of not needing to obsess over astrology and tracking your timing all the time. You don't need to do that. I don't do that. I'm not obsessive about tracking my transits all the time. I'm just living my life. And when something comes up, I look at my transits. Okay, I had a really crazy experience the other day. Anytime I go something really wild, my approach to how I live my life is really simple. It's really straightforward and it's really simple. I simply lead my life from my intuition. I ask myself, inner voice, what would you like to do today? And then I do that. I do what excites me. I do the things that bring me enthusiasm. I'm not looking at the day's transits and tracking everything and saying, oh, now that the moon is here, I have to do this. Oh, this planet is this, so I need to do this today. No. I never do that. I am always leading from my intuition first, and then noticing the interesting correlations between what I've already decided through my free will and my inner voice, and how the astrology perfectly lines up with that and matches that, because astrology is not telling you what to do. It is simply a reflection, signaling that which you are already doing or that which you will already choose. Going back to my original point of seek balance through having a variety of different passions, and also if you find yourself getting so obsessed about tracking your astrology to the detriment of your self-care and your mindfulness practice and your just personal life, that is a warning sign. That is a caution sign right there. Slow down, stop, ground yourself, and go back to what are your priorities in life? What are your values? What are the core essential things that hold the most meaning for you in your life? Go back to the foundational work of knowing your values and what's important to you. And I talk all about this in my book. I think it's chapter 2 of Slow Living. I have a whole chapter on values and why that is the foundation of everything else in your life. When you're aware of your values and you know what they are, everything else can expand and soar and grow to amazing potentials and possibilities. But you have to start from the foundational work of your values and your essential priorities in your life. I hope that this podcast episode brought you some clarity, some new ideas, some inspiration for your day. And I'd love to hear from you. Let me know down below in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening to the podcast, let me know. You can send a review on Apple iTunes. You can leave a review on Apple iTunes or Spotify, or send me a DM or an email to Helena@helenawoods.com.
The amount of Mercury retrograde technology glitches that I have been having over these last few weeks, Sorry about this. Have to re-record this little voiceover section, but I just wanted to let you know, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all your kind words. Every time you send me a DM, a voice memo, I just want to let you guys know that I see them, I hear them. I am so grateful for your being here. I hope that these words inspire you and give you a little bit of extra comfort and grounding from this Taurus sun. All right, I hope you have a magical day, and I will see you in the next podcast episode, which I hope to have a lot more podcast episodes in the new year. I want to do some interviews and more one-on-one chats in the new year, so stay tuned. We've got a lot to share, and I will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful holiday season. Enjoy your holiday, your Christmas, whatever you celebrate, and sending you the biggest hug. Happy Astro Travels.